Hi, my name is Joshua, and I want to talk a little bit about tremolo arm vibrato and some of the pitfalls that I see beginners make when they're learning to do it. So the number one problem that I see, the number one mistake that I see beginners make when they're trying to learn to apply vibrato with the tremolo arm is that they will hold it very, very tightly. And a tight grip is not what you want to apply vibrato that sounds smooth. It's going to give you a very stilted kind of sound, and it's just not pleasing. So what you want to do is you want to hold this thing very loosely. I wouldn't even call it a grip exactly. I would say it's more like you're holding it. Like, I'm gripping the pick right now, the guitar pick. And I'm holding it, Like, there's a difference between holding and gripping something, and you want to hold the tremolo arm. So there needs to be some slack when you move it around. So I'll show you a couple of grips that help achieve this. So the way that I naturally, and there's a number of ways that you can hold this, but the way that I naturally hold it is like this. It's kind of hard to see in detail right now, but I wrap my third and fourth fingers around the end of the bar like this, and I'm not gripping it tightly or anything like that. Usually people, when they hold it, they'll grip it with like all four fingers and they'll tense up their hand and their wrist, and it's not what you want to do. You want to allow some freedom of motion. So what I'll do is I'll hold it around my two smallest fingers, and I'll give it some room to kind of shake around. I'm not, like, you can see it's like it's moving. I'm not like, it's not moving with my fingers. It's like, you can, there's some space, right? So then I'll put my middle finger kind of resting at the end of the bar, at the knob here, and the nub, and I will apply a little bit of pressure going in this direction. And that allows me to just kind of keep an anchor on it and keep it from slipping away, as my phone is currently trying to do. But this is like the only pressure I'm applying is in this direction. These fingers that are actually holding it aren't applying any pressure at all. So that's another grip here. If you're the sort of person who likes to anchor your hand to the body of the guitar, because this grip is lifted from the guitar like this. And if you're the sort of person who likes to rest your hand on the body of the guitar in one way or another, or if you're playing something that just suits itself to that kind of position, one thing you can do is, or what I do at least, is I will hold the bar between my middle and index fingers like this. And that's not a very efficient grip, but that's kind of the idea. You don't want it to be a very tight grip, you want it to be loose. And so holding it between these fingers, I'll anchor my palm to the end of the guitar, and I will apply a little bit of pressure between my fingers like this, and I can shake it like that, and it's allows me to get some very smooth vibrato without applying too much pressure, and again, making it stilted and unnatural sounding. So beyond that, those grips are going to help you with that, with the sort of motion that you're trying to achieve. But as far as the actual motion goes, one thing that I see a lot of beginners do is they'll try and move the bar downwards repeatedly. So, which can sound fine if you practice that a bit, but for typical vibrato purposes, it's not going to sound quite as smooth. And so what you want to understand is that rather than thinking of it as like as just one-dimensional up and down axis, a y-axis, you want to think about it as being a slightly rounded kind of motion, kind of like turning a crank, but instead of being like a circular motion, it's more of a very, very compressed oval. So like you're not going completely up and down. It's got like a bit of a curve to it. Like if you took the number 0 and you just kind of like squashed it, there's a little bit of sideways motion. And like that doesn't really affect anything because like moving it sideways doesn't do anything. But if you move it that way, or at least with that in mind, it will help you to achieve a smoother kind of motion, because you're trying to move it around this axis in what ends up coming across as something of a circular kind of motion. So that can apply to, and that applies whether you're doing very intense music or very chill music, you know, so that was a more, you know, downward motion vibrato. You can do this very slowly or very quickly. And again, it's a loose grip even when I'm doing it quickly. You can do it very wide or very minimally. Again, it's still a loose grip no matter what. And that's going to help you get a more natural feeling to your vibrato. Now, this is going to take some practice. Just because you understand it intellectually, it doesn't mean that you're going to be able to execute it the first time smoothly. It's like anything else, it's a tool, and you're going to have to get some hands-on experience to be able to use it. But it really isn't that hard. I promise you will get it very quickly if you just practice it. So